Goed idee? Ja. Omachyana timandasya snan slaka. Shakshon miritamyena tasmai shivave nama. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswata Deve Gauravani Pacharini. Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschachai Desatarani. That is the first time I see this video, this presentation on D-Land. It is, I've been there now many times, trying to support the project spiritually. But Purnachandra Prabhu is taken up the main role there. And it has been difficult, especially after the departure of Guru Maharaj. But it's always continuing. We try to get support of the North American GBC, but finally they are not against the project, but they are not very supportive either, for certain reasons. But for us, it's Guru Maharaj's project. It's his project, and we want it to be successful. And therefore, we need your support. There are certain challenges in the project. Purnachandra Prabhu has consulted a Vastu specialist, and he's rearranging the entrance of the project. But Guru Maharaj had big plans with this project. He wanted a big Goshal. He wanted even an Ayurvedic clinic, a big temple, and it is certainly not impossible. Guru Maharaj was especially empowered but if we all cooperate and assist, we can make this project successful. The first thing that has to happen is that the project we have goes to, the first thing to happen is we need a big guest house. A guest house to welcome devotees. But to build that, first there must be a system on the property, so that on different places water is available for fire protection. When the fire brigade comes, and there's an issue with fire, that they can get water everywhere. So there's a kind of water system they have to build. And that cost already, I think, was $100,000 or something. Or $200,000. That first has to be done. And then we can build the guest house and go further after that, the Goshal, and think of building a temple. That were Guru Maharaj's plans. When you go to D-Land in the temple, you find a big maquette, a big, how they call it, with a model, a small model of all the projects we wanted to realize. And But your contribution can be in various ways. Of course, donations are always welcome, but you are also welcome to visit and to participate in the project. You are also welcome to give advice, just advice, that be part of our think group. If you want to do that, you can give out your name and we include you in the meetings. So that would be very much appreciated. It is a wonderful area. Nature is beautiful. The cows are extraordinary. That Guru Maharaj selected these cows. They were important, imported from India and many other places, but beautiful cows. It's called the cow sanctuary. We didn't see so many cows, but there are other videos where you can see the cows. Maybe that can be forwarded. So just let us know how you can contribute. We were also thinking of next retreat, maybe doing D-Land. Then everyone can see the project. Would be nice. But without your support, the project will be difficult to go forward. We can maintain it, but not expand it. Therefore, your contribution would certainly be appreciated. Together we are strong. If the project must run only on the local devotees there, it will be difficult. But it has great potential to have retreats, also it offers an opportunity for devotees to live there. And it's beautiful, it's outside, it is in the countryside, very peaceful. Beautiful Gaur Nitai deities. So please keep it in your heart, Guru Maharaj project, and support us in whatever way you think you can. Guru Maharaj will be very pleased, and Srila Prabhupada will be pleased. Good. Now I want to give a short lecture, and I want to focus on Guru Maharaj's message. I will start with reading a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This is from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, chapter 28. Puranjan becomes a woman in the next life, text 15. I just recite the Sanskrit. Sitim darumayim chitva dasyam patyu kalevaram adipya sanamarani pilapanti manodade. Translation and purport by Abhay Charanavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Yeah. She then prepared a blazing fire with firewood and placed the dead body of her husband upon it. When this was finished, she lamented severely and prepared herself to perish in the fire with her husband. Purport. It is a long-standing tradition of the Vedic system that a faithful wife dies along with her husband. This is called Saha Marana. In India, this system was prevalent even to the date of British occupation. At that time, however, a wife who did not wish to die with her husband was sometimes forced to do so by her relatives. Formerly, that was not the case. The wife used to enter the fire voluntarily. The British government stopped this practice, considering it inhuman. However, from the early history of India, we find that when Maharaj Pandu died, he was survived by two wives, Madri and Kunti. The question was whether both should die or one should die. After the death of Maharaj Pandu, his wife settled that one should remain and the other should go. Madri would perish with her husband in the fire, and Kunti would remain to take charge of the 5 Pandava children. Even as late as 1936, we saw the devoted wife voluntarily enter the fire of her husband. This indicates that the devotee's wife must be prepared to act in such a way. Similarly, a devoted disciple of the spiritual master would rather die with the spiritual master than fail to execute the spiritual master's mission. As the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes down upon the earth to re-establish the principles of religion, so his representative, the spiritual master, also comes to re-establish religious principles. It is the duty of the disciple to take charge of the mission of the spiritual master and execute it properly. Otherwise, the disciple should decide to die along with the spiritual master. In other words, to execute the will of the spiritual master, the disciple should be prepared to lay down his life and abandon all personal consideration. So this verse that sets the mood of our Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Maharaj. He was so attached to the mission of Srila Prabhupada that in 2014, Guru Maharaj, he wrote in his offering to Srila Prabhupada, I don't know it ad verbatim, but he said, yes, oh Prabhupada, I've now done everything you asked me to do. So please, let me now come back to you. Let me go to you. That was his desire, 2014. So he was so attached to Srila Prabhupada, because being attached to Srila Prabhupada means being attached to his mission, being attached to following his instructions. And we know when before his last travel from Ujjain to Leland, he made it clear to everyone, you know, all the video wherein he was speaking, that how can I give up the mission of Srila Prabhupada? I have to travel. I have to go. I cannot stop it. because of some material arrangement or danger. He felt he would be a coward if he would not. So strong was his desire that, but he gave the example to the entire world that obeying the instructions of the spiritual master and is engaging in his mission is the first duty of the disciple, and especially Guru Maharaj emphasized that it is important that we please Srila Prabhupada, put him in the center, that like Prabhupada once asked his disciples, why am I translating these books? Why am I translating these books in the middle of the night, giving up my sleep? It's for you to read them. If you are not reading my books, then go avahya, he said, an offense to the spiritual master. Obviously, this instruction is not only meant for the disciples of Prabhupada. That's meant that this is for all members of ISKCON. That Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj, Bhagavad Maharaj was a member of the Srila Prabhupada's position committee of the GBC, and he stressed so much to put Prabhupada in the center and to understand properly his position. We have heard in the video, Satchidananda Maharaj spoke about that when he met him in Germany, that Satchidananda Maharaj said, yeah, why are you preaching everywhere about Prabhupada, putting him in the center? And Guru Maharaj replied, you will see in the future how important it is. If we fail to put Prabhupada in the center, then we will forget Prabhupada and his instructions and the importance. That's also in Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita. The importance of following the spiritual master's instructions are mentioned. That service in Krishna consciousness is best practiced under the able guidance of a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Krishna, who knows the nature of the student and can guide them in Krishna consciousness. As such, to be well versed in Krishna consciousness, one has to act firmly and obey the representative of Krishna. And one should accept the instruction of the bona fide spiritual master as one's mission in life. And that was Guru Maharaj. This is the mission that Srila Prabhupada said to Guru Maharaj, why not giving this life to Krishna and see what happens? And this is what Guru Maharaj did. He gave everything to Prabhupada. So the order of the spiritual master is the active principle in spiritual life. Anyone who disobeys the order of the spiritual master immediately becomes useless. So persons who are strictly following the order of the spiritual master are useful in executing the will of the Supreme, Prabhupada writes. But persons who are deviating from the strict order of the spiritual master become useless. So that is the way to advance in spiritual science. One must accept the word of an Acharya, a bona fide spiritual master, to clear the path for spiritual advancement. It's a secret of success. But one's guide must be a spiritual master who is actually an unalloyed devotee, strictly following the instructions of the previous Acharya without deviation. Whatever the spiritual master says must be accepted by the disciple. Only then success is certain. That is the Vedic system. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, he commented, one can become perfectly successful in the mission of his life if he acts exactly according to the words he hears from the mouth of the spiritual master. This acceptance of the words he hears from the mouth of the spiritual master is called Shrauta Vakya, which indicates that the disciple must carry out the spiritual master's instructions without deviation. Of course, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, we find that in the commentary of Bhagavad Gita 241, stated by Srila Prabhupada there. A disciple must accept the words of the spiritual master as his life and soul. Also Lord Chaitanya confirmed this. His spiritual master, Ishvarapuri, ordered him to chant the holy name of Krishna. Always chant the Hare Krishna mantra. So in April 1977, Prabhupada referred to a room conversation where he discussed statements about his godbrothers found in one of the purports of Chaitanya Charitamrita. The verse and purport describes the result of not following the directions of the spiritual master, and they are as follows. So at first, the followers of Advaita Acharya shared one single opinion. That's the verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. But later they followed two different opinions as ordained by providence. Prabhupada's purport on this verse, Chaitanya Charitamrita. He says, the words Debara Karana indicate that by dint of providence or by God's will, the followers of Advaita Acharya divided in two parties. Such disagreement among the disciples of one Acharya is also found among the members of the Gaudiya Math. In the beginning, during the presence of Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvakacharya Astotarishati Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, all the disciples worked in agreement, but just after his disappearance they disagreed. One party strictly followed the instructions of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, but another group created their own concoction about executing his desires. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, at the time of his departure, requested all his disciples to form a governing body and conduct missionary activities cooperatively. He did not instruct a particular man to become the next Acharya, but just after his passing away, his leading secretaries made plans without authority to occupy the post of Acharya, and they split into two factions over who the next Acharya could be. Consequently, both factions were asar, useless, because they had no authority, having disobeyed the order of the spiritual master. Despite the spiritual master's order to form a governing body and execute the missionary activities of the Gaudiya Math, the two unauthorized factions began litigation and is still going on with no decision after many years. Although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the spiritual master of the entire universe, he nevertheless took the position of a disciple in order to teach by example how a devotee should strictly follow the orders of the spiritual master in executing the duty of always chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Only fools give up the service of the spiritual master and think themselves advanced in spiritual knowledge. In order to check such fools, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself presented the perfect example how to be a disciple. A spiritual master knows very well how to engage each disciple in a particular duty. But if a disciple thinks himself more advanced than the spiritual master, giving up his orders and acts independently, he checks his own spiritual progress. Every disciple must consider himself completely unaware of the signs of Krishna and must always be ready to carry out the orders of the spiritual master to become competent in Krishna consciousness. A disciple should always be full before the spiritual master. Now we come to these are general instructions. But then the question is, how do we apply that in our movement? Our movement is a multi-guru movement. Never existed before. That a movement wherein gurus cooperate to execute the will of Srila Prabhupada and at the benefit of the entire world. Through Srila Prabhupada's books, Srila Prabhupada is a preeminent Shiksha and Jagat Guru. So what I'm going to read are Guru Maharaj's words that within ISKCON, a multi-guru institution, ISKCON gurus are representative of Srila Prabhupada, who remains the main instructor of everyone in ISKCON. The duty of the ISKCON guru is to explain the teachings of the founder Acharya and engage the disciples accordingly in Srila Prabhupada's mission. As such, the before-mentioned instruction to read Srila Prabhupada's books is the duty of all ISKCON disciples, not only for the first-generation disciples. As founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada set standards which need to be maintained. One of the primary instructions is that all members of ISKCON chant daily a minimum of 16 rounds with beats. So within the Gaudiya Sampradaya, besides the specific instructions of the founder Acharya of ISKCON, there are also general instructions laid down in the Vaishnava scriptures, such as Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. An important instruction on how to deal with the Guru is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Krishna instructing Uddhav, Acharya mapijanyan navamadita karichit, namartya buddhya sujeta sarvadeva maya guru. One should know the Acharya as myself and never disrespect him in any way. One should not envy him, thinking him an ordinary man, for he is the representative of the demigods. So interesting here, Lord Krishna speaks that verse to Uddhav, but is not making a distinction between this Diksha and Shiksha Guru. That the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya Guru Parampara is linked together to Shiksha, not Diksha. If one makes a distinction between Shiksha Gurus and Diksha Gurus and gives more respect to the Diksha Guru, then one commits the first offense against the holy name. And that offense many times leads to Guru groupism. To avoid this, one should not take any teachings from others who are not loyal to the teachings of Prabhupada. So if we recognize the position of ISKCON gurus and all senior and advanced devotees in ISKCON in terms of equal servants of the founder Acharya, then this can be avoided. An important point. That, as founder Acharya, Guru Maharaj writes, Srila Prabhupada holds a unique position in ISKCON. We need to understand this deeply, he said. As Acharya, his exemplary behavior is the model and norm for all ISKCON devotees. As founder, his personal standards and principles of action, his particular spirit or mood, it takes a societal shape and form in the organization, and it takes a certain shape and form in the organization he created. Each individual member internalizes that spirit, incorporating in the core as the core of his own identity. So in our hearts, we feel, we are members of ISKCON, we are followers of Prabhupada, and we feel we have a unique relationship with Prabhupada. We pray to Prabhupada, we do Guru Puja every day. It's extraordinary. You can go to many places, but where do you find someone who has a relationship with someone which he never met in his life? It's unique. It's unique that in that sense, that it's important to cultivate that relationship with Prabhupada. Therefore, everyone should treat Prabhupada Lilamrita and become acquainted with the life of Prabhupada. That Guru Maharaj stressed that very much, because we are internalizing the spirit, that it becomes part of our identity. We are followers of Prabhupada. And Guru Maharaj had that very, very deeply internalized. So his spirit pervades the institution and as the essence of his own culture, and the members become its visible embodiment in the world. So that's always Guru Maharaj many times said, we are representatives of Prabhupada. We should be exemplary in our behavior, because we are presenting Prabhupada. So Prabhupada himself remains present generation after generation as a single prominent Shiksha Guru, immanent in the life of every ISKCON devotee, a perpetual indwelling, active, guiding, and direct presence. The Srila Prabhupada is the soul of ISKCON, and he can continue to act effectively in this world as long as ISKCON continues as a coherent expression and unified instrument of his will. So it means, Prabhupada many times said, ISKCON is my body. And as long as we keep that body healthy, Prabhupada will preach to that body. Because his preaching still, Prabhupada is still the main preacher. By distributing his books, people read his books and become attracted to Krishna consciousness. Book distributions know, but what can I say to a person? Can I convince him in 5 minutes? No, the only thing you can do is give him a book. And Prabhupada preaches. So ISKCON is the body of of Prabhupada he uses to preach. And we need to keep it healthy by connecting ourselves to Prabhupada and put Prabhupada in the center. And that is what Guru Maharaj wanted. So what Guru Maharaj makes a point, what are the reasons for Prabhupada's founding of ISKCON? So Srila Prabhupada wanted to create an institution that would be able to act with united force over a large spans of space and time. Therefore, he wanted an organization in which the authority would not reside in a single person or an autocratic acharya, but rather in a board of directors, which is called the Governing Body Commission. Not interesting, the zonal acharya system. So in the beginning, at the end of the 70s, the globe was divided in different zones, and each zone had its global acharyas. I think there were 12 or something, and 9 fell away. 3 made it. From these 3, one was Jayapataka Maharaj, Gopal Krishna Maharaj, was one more, anyway, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, but all the others fell away. But the zonal acharya, you became a disciple in the zonal acharya from this guru. You could not choose. You had to take initiation from the zonal acharya. That was the system. And the zonal acharyas, they were glorified on a very high platform, practically on the same platform of Prabhupada, and that's where it went wrong. But they were all unified around this zonal acharya. And Guru Maharaj said the integrity of ISKCON thus became into jeopardy. The system had been abolished because they became more unified, these zones, than ISKCON on the global level. But what follows now is very important. What are the consequences when we all realize Prabhupada's position as a founder acharya? First thing, Guru Maharaj writes, generation after generation will be unable to receive the special mercy offered by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada's mercy, generation after generation, will be available. The path of Godhead that Prabhupada opened will be increasingly traveled. That second point. By taking full shelter of Srila Prabhupada as Siksha Guru in his Vani manifestation, means to his books and his instructions, all teachers of ISKCON on various levels of advancement will be able to authentically convey Srila Prabhupada's real teachings, thus giving proper guidance, shelter, and protection to all. We just have to repeat Prabhupada's teachings and speak according to our realization, not higher. And third, Srila Prabhupada's active presence will secure the unity and integrity of ISKCON. So, ISKCON will stay together. It will not be divided. As long as we put Prabhupada first. If we put local interest first, we get in the problems. We will be united when Prabhupada is in the center. And Guru Maharaj had this vision for the future. If this movement wants to be successful, we must put Prabhupada in the center. So Guru Maharaj said, not only did this vision for the next 10 years, for many, many generations to come, put Prabhupada in the center. Because Prabhupada, if he gets out of the center, difficulties will come. And we see that sometimes many devotees are propagating their own goals and the books of their goals and so on. It's something to be very careful with, that we keep Prabhupada in the center. And ISKCON teachings will remain consistent over space and time. That's Srila Prabhupada's realized knowledge, endowing him with the specific potency to spread Krishna consciousness, will not only be preserved but also developed. Interesting. His books will remain future development to be realized. And at the last point, Guru Maharaj mentions, Srila Prabhupada's eyes will always remain the lens through which all the future generations see our predecessor Acharyas. So this being faithful to Prabhupada, being faithful to his teachings, being faithful to his movement, by putting him in the center. So this is all found in the Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya. It's a foundational document of the GBC. And Guru Maharaj contributed to that significantly. So this is what I wanted to present. A very essential point of Guru Maharaj's mood, putting Prabhupada in the center. That this Prabhupada consciousness is the same as Krishna consciousness. Simple thing. We are going to do something. Before you do it, think, will Prabhupada be pleased with it? If you get the right answer, you do always the right thing. But for this, we need to know his teachings and keep Prabhupada in the center. Like I've been studying Prabhupada's books for many years. Rarely I read other books. I have no time for that. There's too much to explore in Prabhupada's books. No need to deviate from it. Prabhupada's teachings are 100% sure. If we deviate to others, like in ISKCON, we have so many great souls, Prabhupada disciples, great souls. And they are all like big lamps, but the intensity is different. They have all different realizations. But nobody is really on the level of Prabhupada. That we cannot say. That Prabhupada was the empowered Acharya. That although Guru Maharaj said his association with Prabhupada was quite short. I mean, because he joined late compared to others. But his association with Prabhupada was so deep, and he very quickly understood this point that Guru Maharaj was a spiritual genius, that he could explain Prabhupada's teachings in simple ways. We could understand that it looked so simple when he had explained it, and it touched our heart. And he got that potency from Prabhupada because he was so faithful to Prabhupada. And that is also our fortune. If we follow his example and be as faithful to Prabhupada as he was, our success in spiritual life or back to God, that is guaranteed. Thank you very much. I will just
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for the insight into D-Land and the class given. And it is indeed all of our